Hello, students. Let's start with the part 2 of the chapter 4, The Enemy by Pearl S. Buck. In our last video, we have learned that Dr. Sadao Hoki was a famous Japanese surgeon as well as scientist. He was living with his wife Hannah and his two children on the coastal area. The Second World War was going on, but Dr. Sadao was not sent with the troops. Sadaus and Hannah met in America at his professor's Harley's house. They both, after finishing their studies, came back to Japan and married in the traditional Japanese way. They were a happy couple. One night, they saw a man who was lying unconscious on the sea sand. Sadao saw that he was bleeding. Sadao put a sea moss on his wound. He was groaning in pain and fainted. Sadao wondered what to do for that American soldier at the time when war was going on in both the countries. He is in a dilemma that being a doctor, should he save the wounded soldier or should he hand over the enemy to the Japanese army? Finally, Sadao took him home and decided to save his enemy. The enemy disrupted his life and his family. His wife was against his idea to take care of this enemy. This man was a prisoner of war. He had escaped and was wounded in the back. All Americans were Dr. Sadao's enemy. He was very light. They carried him into the bedroom. Dr. Sadao wanted to wash as the man was dirty. Hannah told her maid Yumi to help them. However, the servants refused to do so. The enemy was unconscious. Dr. Sadao started to examine. His pulse was faint but was there. He put his hand against the man's cold chest. Dr. Sadao could feel heartbeats. The enemy was very young, approx 24 years old. Hannah washed him and Dr. Sadao washed the man's back. He asked her to give the anesthetic, but she was not able to do so because she had never seen an operation. Dr. Sadao operated an enemy and the bullet was out. Sadao gave him an injection and the man's pulse grew stronger. Not a single servant was ready to enter the room and serve this enemy. She asked Sadao that even servants were very clear about what they had to do. They left the job and went because they knew that they had to serve prisoner. Why they were so different from others? Hannah screamed and asked Sadao not to save the men. She feared that if he lived, they would be in danger. Sadao looked at the enemy and thought that the man had a lot of energy which had kept him alive through such torture. He was young and that's why he had a lot of energy and he was still alive after so much of torture. Hannah asked Sadao about this enemy that if he would die during the operation. Sadao confirmed her question. Hannah had never seen this before and started vomiting. After seeing a deep red scars on the neck of their enemy, Hannah believed that war torture stories were really true. She knew that officer of the Japanese army, General Takima, who was cruel to his wife and would beat her, so he could be cruel to the prisoners. Meanwhile, Sadao started operating the man. He felt the tip of his instrument strike against something hard. It was bullet. Bullet was just near his kidney. Sadao had to work hard on the young man and then he finally succeeded in taking the bullet out. Sadao gave him an injection and the enemy was okay. Hana felt sad and sympathetic towards him. Sadao's professor of anatomy had told once that if a doctor ignored the knowledge of any part of the body, it was the first misdeed that he had committed. To operate upon a body without detailed knowledge of it as much as the person who makes it would amount to committing murder of that body. Sadao's professor would repeat these words in his class often. ऑपरेशन करते करते सडाओ भूल जाता था कि वो एक दुश्मन से बात कर रहा है. He called his enemy as my friend. Sadao was checking his pulse. He was checking if the man was still alive. Sadao was sure that he didn't want the men to live. Sadao filled a syringe and pushed the vaccine into the man's arm. The pearls then improved. Sadao told Hannah that the injured man would live. Hannah served him food as the servants refused to enter the room. Hannah fed him gently. The man did not want to eat, but still he ate. Sadao visited the man. His face was pale and weak. The enemy asked Sadao that what he could do now. He again asked Sadao if he would hand him over to the Japanese army. Sadao did not reply at that moment. After some time, Sadao said that he did not know what to do with his enemy. He said that he knew that he was a war prisoner and asked him not to speak and not to tell his name also unless he asked him to do so. The servants warned Hannah and Sadao. They said that they were not ready to stay with them if the enemy lived there any longer. Sadao denied harshly and said that he was a doctor, he could not let a man die. His servants started disrespecting him. Yumi was worried about the fate of Sadao and Hannah's children. When they grew up, they would be labeled as the children of a traitor. Hannah felt that the servants were right, but she had some feelings even for the injured men. Sadao was regularly examining the wounded person. The American soldier would be better in the next 15 days. Servants left their house. Hannah paid them and thanked them. The cook and the gardener were very old employees. They were employed by Sadao's father. Yumi was crying. सडाव चाहता था कि टॉम जल्दी ठीक हो जाए और वो यहाँ वहाँ से जल्द ही चला जाए क्योंकि वह उनकी परेशानी का सबसे बड़ा सबब बन गया था. टॉम सडाव का इशारा समझ गया और उसका शुक्रिया अदा करने लगा. That same day, second incident happened in the afternoon. When Hannah was completing all household work, a messenger wearing official uniform had come to the house. She thought that the servants must have told to the officials that they were sheltering an enemy. Tom, the messenger had messaged that old Journal was suffering in pain and Sadao had to treat him. Sadao went with the messenger to treat the general. Sadao narrated the entire incident to the general. They decided to send private assassin to kill Tom. Sadao agreed to the plan. Meanwhile, Tom was getting better. He thanked Sadao. Sadao was tired of waiting for the assassin to do away with the enemy. Now Sadao realized that he should save his enemy's life. He provided a boat, put food, water, and quilt in his boat. It was a moonless night when he sailed away to the island. Dr. Sadao was again called by General and Sadao operated him. In between, he told General about the escape of the enemy. General kept quiet about all that. The journal informed Sadao that he forgot about the prisoner as he was unwell. He told Sadao not to leak out this information to anybody. As Tom had left, all the servants returned. Things came back to normal. Sadao remembered the American and hated him, but didn't know why he had saved the enemy's life. Children, I hope you have understood this chapter. All the questions are important. Prepare them well. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay healthy.